And you tell this story in your book where your teachers laughed at you because you told them that in about 10 years, every business would have a website.
Yep.
And they laughed at you. They mocked you.
Publicly in front of the other students. All right, so what happened was back in my day. So what happened was I'm about 38 right now. So 20 years ago, I was a graduate from high school, 2002. I went to a community college, small military town, because that's what I could afford. And what happened was I was in my class. I went for graphic design advertising, and we were talking about print media. We're talking about banner advertisements. We're talking about all these things. I brought up, and I was very aggressively defending the internet and the concept of web design, and web design as a more lucrative path versus traditional print. And my professors were or in this case, a particular professor pushed back on me and talked about the legacy of print and everything. And basically they were defending their own degree and their own experience and so on and so forth. And then I'm also a kid. So from their perspective, I'm an arrogant twat. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'd also been coding since I was 13 years old. See, so I actually had nearly a decade of experience at this point, despite just graduating high school, of actually learning something extraordinarily difficult, extraordinarily technical, because I learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I was in the beginnings of starting to try to learn a little bit of PHP and MySQL at that point. And so I was learning Flash ActionScript at the time as well. So I had taught myself, 3 very difficult coding languages and was working on a 4th and a 5th, and I'd learned all these technical things, and I was pushing back here, and I said, within about 10 years, every company and corporation in America will want a website and will need a website, and they won't be considered legitimate if they don't have one. And they mocked me and publicly in front of the rest of the classroom, who I think at the time a lot of them did agree with me, but they were afraid to stand up to the professor. And I was ridiculed, and I was mocked very publicly. It was very humiliating, and by the time I struggled to get through the rest of that school day, and this is early in my college career, and this is very devastating for me. And so then I go home, to my mom and to my siblings, and they know how passionate I am about this, because they know that I am very invested in this, and that I believe this to be the future, and that I'm staking my future career on this, and that I told them how I was treated, and I told them what my teacher said, and they said, you're probably going to be right about all of this and everything. You always are trying to think ahead, and there are people, they live in the moment. You are not really the most present person in the world all the time. You always want to look toward the future, and a lot of times it just takes time for you to be proven right. So just keep going, and if you believe in this, just stay the course. Because a lot of times your decisions will prove their own merit, and you'll either be very, very right about this, or it may take a little bit longer, but there's no reason for you. It's like you grew up with the internet. They didn't. You probably do know better than them, but it's not a really good look for them to accept that you might know something they don't know, because their job is to teach you. You challenging them undermines their authority, but it doesn't mean you're not right. So it was a very good conversation. I felt a lot better about it. My mom's always been great about these type of things. And ultimately, we're 20 years later, look who's laughing now. I was proven right, and it didn't take 20 years, but ultimately, there were a lot of things I predicted. And the thing is, I believe with the same conviction that being a content creator 20 years from now will be a normalized profession in the way that everyone respects what a web designer does today. Everyone understands the value of a web designer. Web design is a very prestigious profession today. Being a programmer and coder is a very prestigious profession today, but people do not remember that before the iPhone, none of this was taken seriously. None of it. So I believe that if you give it another 10, 15, 20 years, most people will understand what being a content creator is, and it will be a respected profession, and it will be recognized as a profession, and it will be given the same legitimacy as being a web designer, a graphic designer, or a coder. It absolutely will. This is the new Silicon Valley. This is the creator economy is the next Silicon Valley. Make no mistake about it. It's going to take creative people and give them the opportunity that technical and logistics-based people who otherwise would be overlooked in society, the turn of the 21st century gave these computer nerds who were like the subject of scorn and mockery in late 90s and even early 80s, films, oh, computer nerd, it made them into rock stars by the time the movie The Social Network came out. It will not take nearly as long for content creators to get their due, in my opinion.
Thanks for watching Mark Spont Media. Here we're going to help you create better content in less time and turn that attention into income. If you love this video, you're going to love these videos here. Click the one. Me and my team specially selected this just for you. Click the link, check out the video. I'll catch you here next time on Mark Spont Media. Peace.